Injuries are going to happen in spring practice. It is just a fact of life. And Tennessee has suffered one in Cam Seldon, who will be out for the remainder of spring practice. He was the spring practice star last year, as everyone thought he would have a major impact. Little did they know, some of those people, that Jalen Wright was going to be fantastic. Jabari Small is still pretty good. And you had Dylan Sampson taking another step. So Seldon was not a factor. How big of a factor is it, Caleb Calhoun, that he will not be available for the remainder of spring camp?
So there's a twofold take on this. For Tennessee, it's not as big of a factor because I don't think Cam Seldon's that good. So that's the first part. Okay, the guy.
Now let me stop you there, because I happen to tend to agree with you. I'm still. I think you and I would both agree the jury's still out, right? We don't know that he's not that good. It's too early.
There are some holes that if you can't identify, I don't think you'll ever be able to play football at running back. I mean,
okay, but you have to admit you're a little unsure. 20-30%. He could still. You're not saying
it's not as fun. I like to be 100% sure. And,
okay, 100% sure. I am unsure. However,
all right, you are probably right, but
no, that's fine. But I'm not 100% sure either way. But there are a lot of people around this program that think that he is going to be really good. So the eyeballs go with Caleb. The eardrums go with the guys that I'm hearing that I respect their opinion. So I'm a little torn. But the fact that he's out for spring, let's deal specifically with that. Do spring holdouts really, really matter?
Now, on that front, I say yes. It is indicative of what will happen in the fall. I think if you're held out of the spring due to injury, it gets hard to get you back into rhythm. And I do think that can cause some issues. Heupel had a lot of people out last spring, and then there were a lot of injuries that hit during the fall. I can give you guys some history real quick. There was a Jalen reeves-maybin was once held out of a spring under Butch Jones. Then he missed a significant portion of his senior season because of that. You can go way back. Gerald Riggs was held out of a spring camp because they didn't have a lot of depth there. I think Arian Foster was a freshman that year, and they were worried about the lack of talent behind Riggs, so they just held him out. Riggs suffered a season-ending injury in the fall of 2005. Either held him out or limited him in spring practice. I can't remember. But there seems to be a pattern of when players are held out of spring or not playing, of it causing them issues when they play in the fall.
Okay. I'm that to me is just an odd coincidence. I think there are plenty of players who've been held out of spring that were completely healthy through the fall because they were held out of spring. Here's why this isn't even news. And what did I say? It's not even news, because it's not.
What the? What was he thinking? Release the hounds. The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
I'm going to go so far, Caleb, as to say it's not even news. And I say that because skill position players can do as much in the summer as they can in spring. It can be every bit as beneficial for everyone that isn't in on the trenches. I believe that most oftentimes you err on the side of caution with holding guys out. I happen to think Cam Seldon will be a decent football player, or they would have already run him. You and I can differ on that. But in just terms of spring holdouts, do they matter? I don't really think so. I think spring is about getting young guys better, and he's a young guy. But I think you and I would agree that running backs are kind of on a different developmental curve. We've seen freshmen have impacts. We've had sophomores seen impacts. So this is not like it's an offensive lineman that's coming in and trying to get used to the system. I don't think it's even news that he's held out. I don't think it's a big deal at all.
Well, I think it's... But part of being involved in spring practice, Dave, is not just developing and learning the system. Now, that's part of it. And if Cam Seldon is going to be what you think, he needs every second of learning the system that he can get. And he needs every bit of practice he can get, because that guy needs to develop mentally. I don't mean he's not all there. I mean, just he can't.
I understand what you mean. We're not calling stupid around here.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, my issue is that a lot of spring for the veterans is about just staying in shape. So how does the calendar work, Dave? You have all season workouts, right?
Yes.
Then you have spring practice. Then you have summer workouts. Then you have fall camp. That's how that works, right?
Yes.
Well, if you're held out all of spring, then your summer workouts could be about you just trying to get back to where you were from off season, from winter workouts, as opposed to actually maybe building on the strength and muscle you built.
I think you're reaching, Caleb.
I'm not reaching.
You, man,
this stuff happens. Every other conference is getting better. Every other player is getting better.
Constantly. I mean, he's already, it's the be ready, get ready. He's already ready. I mean, if there were a game on Saturday, you think Cam Seldon, or let's say in 3 weeks, the end of spring camp, let's say this is the old bowl practice where they're getting ready for an opponent that's about 3 years away. You think that he wouldn't be available in 3 weeks? Come on.
I mean, he may be available. He wouldn't play because he wouldn't be that good. But I do say,
aside from that, let's make it somebody who, I don't want to throw out names, but it could be somebody else. By the way, how good would Heath Schuler be in Josh Heupel's offense? Incredible 36%, really good 34%, unstoppable 17%, good 10%. Cam Seldon being out this is the new poll question, troublesome, okay, and then I don't even think he's going to be a factor. How about that? So I know where you would go. I don't think, though, that it's a constant gradual physical growth throughout the offseason. I think several guys would have times in which, injured or not, they wouldn't continually get better to make them healthier in the fall. I think you're reaching a little bit there, Caleb.
I don't know. I think it's possible. I'm just saying, anecdotally, there are some stories here, and it is true. I'm seeing the comments, and I do believe it's true. Wasn't Dante Thornton held out of spring practice last year? How'd that work out? This all-world transfer.
Okay, I don't want to go down that road. Maybe you could do a little bit of research and tell me for sure. I'm not 110% sure that he was held out, but if he was, that supports my point of the young, inexperienced guys need to be there. By the way, if you can take a second, hit that like button, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that. Turn your notifications on. We appreciate that. But that's the type of guy that needs it. A transfer needs it. A freshman needs it. A freshman offensive lineman needs it. I don't think, I mean,
now I will say this.
By now, there's a problem.
No, I'll give you this. I put no stock into how somebody performs in spring practice. Never have, never will. Like the spring game. You know what I mean? Have you ever cared how well someone played in a spring game? Have you ever been gone away from a spring game and like, that guy's going to be a star?
Not the spring game, but the 3 spring scrimmages that they would have. If the team was fairly healthy, that they would only open to certain media members. Yeah, I drew a lot from that. But I don't. But I'll say that. I'll say this to support your point. That's only about 2 out of 5 years when most everybody was healthy and they were participating. But now spring practices and scrimmages aren't even open. So for somebody to say that, like they did last year, Cam Seldon's going to be a superstar, I thought that was way ahead of the curve. There were a lot of people that thought that he was going to surpass Jalen Wright and Jabari Small. I thought that was pretty crazy at the time.
I think this coaching staff lies. I'm just going to say it. It annoys me to no end.
Every coaching staff lies.
Why these blatantly lie. They tell us to ignore our eyes and what we're seeing constantly. I mean, we heard all last year that Squirrel White was exploding in spring practice, that he was dominant, that he was going to be all-world everything. And now we had reason to believe it because we saw him in mop-up duty during the season in 2022. He wasn't all-world everything in 2023. Now, yes, a lot of that is the fault of who was throwing him the football. We can put that on Joe Milton in a lot of ways, but he wasn't what we were promised. You're hearing the same thing about Cam Seldon again this offseason. I have eyes. The coaching staff what they say can't contradict my eyes. Yeah. Okay. Josh Heupel is very close to hitting Butch Jones level lying with Shy Tuttle fell on a helmet. Okay. It's like, it annoys me to no end how much he lies to us.
Now, and let me clarify something real quick. Ben said Seldon had shoulder surgery. Did he not? How's he going to be ready in 3 weeks? But my point being is if this was the fall, maybe a different decision would have been made. If it's a national championship game, maybe a different decision would be made as to whether or not to have surgery. That was my only point. I'm not talking specifically Ben in this instance. I want to clarify. But there's a totally different mindset that occurs in spring camp than at any other time of the year. When you're in the fall, you're thinking, can I get this guy by? Can I get him healthy? Can he get through one more game? Because there's a bye before Alabama. That's your mindset. Now it's like, get him off the field so that he can't even be on the sidelines and nobody could accidentally run into him. He's banged up. There's no reason in getting hurt in spring camp. Caleb, there was one player, there's been a couple of players that have gotten hurt in spring camp where you kind of scratch your head and wonder. I believe Peerless Price got hurt in spring camp. Did he not? Maybe you can check on that.
I thought he got hurt in the spring camp heading into 97, though. Peyton Manning's senior season.
Yes, he did. And he ended up playing about halfway through the season and had a decent year. But at the time, you had to question Tennessee's coaching staff for even having Peerless Price out there.
Peerless Price also had some mistakes in that season, but yes.